Hello, beautiful people. I hope that wherever you are in the world, that you are doing well and that you are taking care of yourselves. I'm Chris Danker, and this is Let the Adventure Begin. Let the Adventure Begin with Chris Danker podcast. Welcome to episode 150, and I can't believe I get to say this, but happy third anniversary to Let the Adventure Begin with Chris Danker. 3 years. Holy cow, folks. I am so stoked to talk about this milestone and what it means to me. Whenever we reach milestones, I think it is really important to reflect on them and what we've learned in the process, and then think about what we're looking forward to as we continue moving forward. I feel like most of us just go through the motions and we get so busy in what we're doing that we don't take the time to reflect and then goal set. So I wanted to just share with you some things that I've learned over the last 3 years and things that I'm looking forward to as I start year 4 as maybe a motivator for you to do something like this in your life. So 3 things that I've learned. Number 1 is to stay in my lane. Number 2, for my podcast in particular, to go back to doing interviews. And number 3, enjoy the journey. So I'm going to start with number 1, to stay in my lane. I thought, in your number 3 that I needed to narrow my focus more and to make it more of, to maybe just zone in on women in my age group in their 50s, 60s, 70s, and beyond. And I found out that that was a mistake and that I lost a lot of the people who had become regular listeners. And that was because they just kind of figured they dropped off because it's like, I don't think this is probably for me anymore, especially as some of my younger listeners. And I get it. If someone said that they were going to pivot in a different direction and that's the way they were going, I go, oh, okay. I don't really need to listen to this podcast anymore. And so it was one of those things where, yes, in hindsight, it backfired. However, it was a good lesson for me to learn. And even when we fail, a lot of times we learn more from our failure than we do from our success. So this was something that I definitely learned, that it's important for me to stay in my lane and know that Let the Adventure Begin with Chris Danker is about adventures that we're seeking in our physical, intellectual, emotional, and spiritual health. And that encompasses, really anyone who is interested in those topic areas. So I narrowed my focus too much. And now that I've pivoted back to what I was doing before, people who were listening before are coming back and I'm gaining new listeners as well. So that was important for me to remember to stay in my lane. And that doesn't mean that, when we're staying in our lane, that doesn't mean that we can't branch out into other areas or revisit some things. But, we know what we know. And if it's going well, we tweak things rather than maybe making wholesale changes. So that's something that I learned, to stay in my lane. With that in mind, secondly, I learned that I want to go back to doing some interviews. I did some interviews throughout year 2, and I scaled back and didn't do really any interviews in year number 3. And that's something that I want to go back to because I get the opportunity to share other stories and I learn about how others are jumping into their adventures, and as our listening community, we get to learn more from each other rather than listening to me every week. I think it's very important to learn from others' perspectives. For example, I interviewed Danielle Helzer, who was getting ready to opening her brick and mortar bookstore, Rooted Books and Gifts in Grand Island, Nebraska. In fact, I will link their website to the show notes, because even if you're nowhere near Grand Island, Nebraska, you can still support a small, independently female-owned bookstore. And so I'll share that information with you. But I want to go back to her, interview her again, and just kind of find out, how has the first year been? What are some of the highs and lows? I follow her, I follow the bookstore, so I kind of have an inside scoop. But I don't know everything. She is pretty transparent on some of the highs and some of the struggles. However, I think it's important also to hear it from her own lips, so to speak. So I want to come back and I want to interview her. I also want to come back and interview Megan Farley. Meg she is a former teacher that I have known for years. She just turned 33. So happy belated birthday, Meg. And she basically decided to make a huge leap of faith from being a first grade teacher into her own business, and it has evolved. In fact, she was recently featured in people.com. I'll link that article to the show notes as well. So I want to catch up with her and find out how the last year has been for her and all of the big changes going on in her life. And then someone else I want to go back to and have another conversation with. And this conversation has actually been the most downloaded interview, and that is with Gina Stavas. And Gina is the innkeeper, owner of Whispering Pines Bed and Breakfast in Nebraska City. She's coming up on her 20th anniversary this fall of owning Whispering Pines Bed and Breakfast. And so I would love to be able to have a conversation with her as to what the changes that she has seen over 20 years of owning her business, and what she's looking forward to as she moves forward into the future. So those are 3 people that I have interviewed in year 2 that I want to come back to as I go into year 4. And I also want to expand and have a growing list of other people that I would like to interview. I have, some people in mind that I really think being able to amplify their voices and to just be able to share how they are jumping into their adventures, we can all learn from each other. So going back to doing interviews, that's something that year 4 will be looking like. And I'll come back to that because, like I said, we learn, and I just had so much joy in talking to different people. Number 3, I want to go back to enjoying the journey of the podcast. I really got away from that, and it showed. I hit a point where I was kind of going through the motions. That's when I did my pivot, and that really didn't work. And then I pivoted back, and it's like it's breathing new life into me. And I want to just get back to just really enjoying this journey and reminding myself why I decided to do the podcast in the first place. And just, like I said, being able to share about how we all jump into different adventures and what we learn from them, and the lessons, the mistakes, the failures, the joys that they bring. And so I want to get back to enjoying the journey. So as I celebrate 3 years doing this podcast, I've learned to stay in my lane. I've learned that going back to doing interviews is something that really gave me motivation and was very inspirational for me. And I know it was for a lot of listeners as well, and simply enjoying the journey. In the upcoming weeks, I just want to share with you what I have coming up. Next week will be a different episode for me because I am going to be talking about my pre-operation feelings. I am going to be having a surgery on June 18th. So next week's episode will be all about that, and just, don't skip it, because some of you might be going, okay, doesn't have anything to do with me. I am not going to have a hysterectomy in my near future, or I'm a guy, I listen to the podcast and that has nothing to do with me. I want you to come and back and listen to it next week from the standpoint of when we're going into some unknowns and how that can make us feel, and what we can do when we're feeling some uncertainty in our lives. So I hope that you'll come and listen to that podcast next week. June 25th, I'm going to have replay the most downloaded, listened to episode. It is called Release. And like I said, it has been the most listened to episode I've had in 3 years. So I'm going to replay that one for you. July 2nd will be an interview with my husband, Jack. Adventures in Marriage. That was one that we did a couple of years ago. And I'm doing that kind of in celebration. Our 36th anniversary is on June 30th. So I thought this would be a fun one to replay for you as well. And then on July 9th, I'll be back live. I will be about 3 weeks post-op, and just talking about what that experience has been like and how things are going. So that gives you an idea as to how the next 4 weeks will go. And before I peace out today, I just want to remember that, June is a fantastic month to honor our sisters and brothers in the LGBTQ plus community. It's a great way to celebrate, to honor. I have been doing some things to really amp up and work on my own allyship, to be a better ally. I have family and friends in the LGBTQ plus community, and I know I can do better for them. And so I am working on that while amplifying their voices on Instagram. Anytime that I can, I put up information on my stories about celebrations, about things that are going on, about businesses that are owned by LGBTQ plus community members. So June is a great way to, like I said, to celebrate and honor. However, it's also a reminder that every person deserves to live their lives in full bloom 24/7. That, everyone deserves that, every single person. So I just wanted to remind us all of that as well. Like I said, Pride Month in June is a great time to amplify. However, it's also a helpful reminder to us that it's not just about June, it's July through May as well. And also, before I leave today, there's a lot of just wild things going on in the United States right now, and really worldwide. And I want to come back to this quote by John Wesley. Do all the good you can, by all the means you can, in all the ways you can, in all the places you can, to all the people you can, as long as ever you can. I think that's really important to remember in today's climate, to not get caught up in the propaganda, to really make sure that you're doing your due diligence in the news and things that you consume. And while it can be very overwhelming, it's important to, like I said, to stay informed and to do what we can for others in whatever ways we can. Remember, it is not a sprint, it is a marathon to help our brothers and sisters in the world. While there are some people who are trying to put chaos out there and to try to distract us, it is important to, again, remember that we want to do for our fellow sisters and brothers in the world. So do what you can. Make sure that you're staying safe. Know that I love you. I am holding you in my space wherever you are in the world. And I hope that until we meet again next week, that you let your adventure begin. Peace.